Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate you guys. So today we're going to be making some delicious ChinChin. This is an African snack. It is more of a West African snack. So Nigerians call it ChinChin, Ghana calls it Achomo, and Sierra Leone calls it ChamCham. Alright, and as you can see, what I'm doing here is breaking them with my fingers, and that's because they're crispy but at the same time they're very chewable. Alright, so I'm going to show you guys the technique that I use to make it chewable so that even my kids can have it with no issues. Okay, so first let's go through the list of ingredients that I'm going to be using. So I have 4 cups of all-purpose flour, half cup of butter, which is 1 stick, 1/3 cup of sugar, 1 teaspoon baking powder, half teaspoon nutmeg, 1 egg, and 1 cup of whole milk. All right, so first what you want to do is to sieve your flour. That way you prevent throwing a whole bunch of flour away, especially if things were to go wrong, or if you find something in your flour that is not supposed to be there. Sieving prevents all of those issues, so it's good, it's best practice. All right, so when I sieve about 3 cups of my flour, the last cup, which is the 4th cup, I'll add my other dried ingredients to it and sieve them all together, and that's what you can see me doing here. Alright, and once I'm done, I'll just go ahead and stir it up real quick and then add my butter to my flour. So when I add the butter to the flour, I just go ahead and use my hands to break it up into the flour, mix it up really nice to an even consistency. Alright, and then I can go ahead and add my egg to this mixture. You can add both the egg and the milk at the same time, it doesn't really matter, but I chose to do them one at a time. So I added the eggs and then mixed it up really good, and then added the milk to it. This milk I used was cold milk. You can use room temperature, which is best. And as far as the milk, I'm using 1 cup, but you would use anywhere between 1 cup to 1/4 cup of milk. So you don't want it to be very dry, you want it to be like a bread texture. Your dough should be like bread texture, a little softer than bread texture. All right, so I'm going to show you guys 2 methods of cutting your ChinChin up, as in preparing your ChinChin to fry. So what I'm doing here is just sprinkling flour on a tray, and that's a tray that is going to be holding my achomo when I'm done with the all of the cutting. And then what you see me doing here is sprinkling flour on a clean cutting surface, and then I'm gonna go ahead and roll out my dough. And with the dough, after you finish mixing it, you want to set it aside and let it rest for about 10 to 15 minutes. I didn't do any of that in this video, I just went straight on to rolling it. And what happens is, if you don't let it rest for a little bit, it would give you a lot of pullback, so you have your dough pulling back on you a whole lot. All right, and that tells you that it did not rest enough. So it's best practice to always let your dough rest for a few minutes, at least 10-15 minutes, before you begin working with it. That way it's not pulling back so much. And so what I'm doing here is just cutting the rough edges from around the dough that I rolled, and then I'm cutting my dough into vertical bars, and then I'll go ahead and cut them into horizontal. So pretty much I'm creating the squares now, so you don't want to make them too big. So the trick to getting them to be super chewable, as you could see I was using my fingers to break them up, is by rolling your dough very thin. Okay, if you roll it thin and then you cut it into the square sizes that you want, when you fry it, because your dough was rolled thin, it is crispy and very chewable. But if you roll your dough thick, then you have a lot of dough in each cube, and so then it's going to be hard. And so that's the difference. That's the technique that I found as far as what makes it very chewable and what makes it really, really hard. Okay, and so this is the second method. So the first method, we used a knife to cut it into vertical and horizontal to create our cubes, and now we are using a pastry cutter to cut up our dough, the same way we cut up our dough using the knife, but the only thing is the pastry cutter does a bunch of them at once. So if you were trying to make a lot of this ChinChin for like a party and stuff, you may want to go with the pastry cutter. All right, so that's what I'm doing here. So I did the vertical first, and then I'm gonna go into the horizontal direction as well, and then sprinkle some flour. So as you saw, I did on the first method, I sprinkled flour on it when I was done, and that is so the cubes will stick to each other. That way when you fry them, they will be separate instead of, you know, holding on to each other. And so what you can see me doing here is using the knife to clean them up, because sometimes when you use the pastry cutter, if you don't press hard enough, some of them will still be attached to each other. So you just want to go through with the knife and clean it up before you sprinkle your flour on it. All right, and now we're done. We're just gonna go ahead and set it in the tray, finish up rolling the rest of the dough, and we'll begin frying. All right, so before I begin frying, I like to get all of my things ready, and one of those would be like a tray lined with paper towel to absorb the excess oil from the Achomo. All right, and then I'll fill up my pot with some vegetable oil and heat it up to the temperature. You want to make it hot, but in order to know if it's hot, you want to test a few pieces of your ChinChin before you put the main ones in there. And so I grab a bunch of the ChinChin in my hands, and then I drop it to the side of the pot gently. Okay, you don't want to just drop it in there like in the middle of the oil, because it would splash on you. So you want to prevent getting burned by the hot oil. So just drop it to the side, grab a bunch of it, drop it to the side of the pot. And I fried this on medium heat. Okay, if you use high heat, it would get brown super fast on the outside and the inside won't be done. So medium heat is actually perfect to do this. Okay, and so yeah, I just did all the batches until it was done, and that was it. Pretty straightforward and delicious. All right, and then you let it cool completely before you serve or package your Achomo. All right guys, I hope you all enjoyed watching this video. If you have any suggestions, any questions, definitely leave that in the comment section below. Please do not forget to leave a thumbs up and also share with your family and friends. I hope you all have a wonderful time. Stay tuned for the next video. Have fun guys. Bye bye.